all of this is pervaded. By worshipping him through the performance of his own duty does man attain perfection. The word yataha is used meaning he from whom, and the Supreme Soul from whom. The Supreme Soul from whom all this activity of creatures has arisen, both creatures themselves and their activities become manifest from the Supreme Soul, and by whom all of this is pervaded, because the Supreme Soul resides in each and every atom. One should worshipping him, the Supreme Lord, through one's karma actions, and if they do, then they will attain perfection. Nobody before Shri Krishna has said this, that one can worship God through karma actions. People say that you can carry out worship through vermilion, you can carry out worship through rice, you can carry out worship from flowers, and you can carry out worship through arti. But you cannot also worship God through your karma actions. Shri Krishna is the first speaker in the world who has said that a person can worship the Supreme Soul through his own karma. Not only does he worship the Supreme Soul through his karma actions, but a person can attain the supreme perfection by performing his karma actions. God has opened a new type of worship through karma actions. Whatever karma actions you perform in life, consider that it is a worship of the Supreme Soul, and your whole life will become a bhakti devotion. Even if you perform the smallest of all karma actions, such as eating, it is a worship of the Lord. Am Vaishvano Bhutva Paninam Deham Ashrita. I become the fire of life in the bodies of living creatures. Therefore, the same Supreme Soul that is in your stomach, you're offering oblations to the Supreme Soul by eating. If you think that this is not even your act of eating, will become worship. Therefore, what should you give your stomach? You should give your stomach that which your Lord likes. Therefore, it is determined what you should eat, it is determined how you should eat, and it's decided the attitude of which you should eat. A person should also earn wealth, but the earning of wealth can become worship. This activity is worship. It is also your duty to earn wealth. Why are you earning wealth? It is so that you can perform the Lord's work with splendor, that you need wealth, and so you can hold your head up in society with splendor, that you wish to do God's work. If the food is ready in the morning, but it's uncertain what will happen in the evening, then how would one be able to do God's work? And perhaps people make fun of such a person, saying that he went out to do God's work and look what happened to him. This happens. The devotee says, I do not want this to happen. Nagari Nath used to make fun of Narsi Mehta. She said that your daughter's event has come, but what will you do? Just stand there and blow your conch. Narsi Mehta has written this. The devotee thinks that God, this should not happen, and I know, Lord, that you come and stand there. And Lord, whenever I get from the efforts, I make your prasad oblation. This is because whatever consequences come, give me happiness, Lord. Shri Krishna said while describing a Sita Prajna, a person settled in intelligence, in the second chapter of the Gita, that prasadastu prasanata prasada sarva dukkhanam hani rasya upajayate prasana chetasohasu buddhi paritishati. And in that purity of spirit, there is produced for him an end of all sorrow. The intelligence of such a man of pure spirit is soon established in the peace of the self. This is prasad, oblation. The devotee says that I get happiness from the prasad, oblations you give, Lord. My intellect becomes at ease, and my mind wishes to do more work for you. That is why I feel that it is prasad, oblation. Lord, the consequences that are coming from the karma actions I am performing result in me having greater enthusiasm in performing karma actions for you. That is why it is prasad, oblations. It gives peace to my mind. The devotee said that I would also get married, Lord. Why? This is because when my body falls, then my activity should not stop. My body is going to fall, if not today, then after 50 years or 100 years. And am I prepared for it? When my body stops working, then my activity should not stop. Lord, the activity should keep running, and that is why I wish for progeny, and that is why I wish to get married. Getting married is also bhakti devotion, and by worshipping God in the performance of this duty, one attains perfection. The devotee says that, Lord, this is my worship of you through this karma action. One can worship God even in the smallest of all things. It depends on one's attitude. And if one worships God in the performance of his duty, then one attains siddhi, perfection. If a karma does not look like a worship of God, then you will not be able to attain siddhi, perfection. First of all, you will not feel peace, and when you perform the karma action, then it will feel like a burden. It will become a burden and a punishment. If a karma feels like a burden to a person, then they think that, why do I have to do all of this? I had no other choice. Then how can they become bhakti, devotion? These people even perform bhakti devotion like this. They say, oh my goodness, I still have to perform 2 mara, prayer beads. I'm still there, and I still have to wash 2 pairs of clothes. How can this become bhakti, devotion? Even washing 2 pairs of clothes should become bhakti, devotion, because in the performance, one's duty, one attains perfection. One should think that, Lord, this is my karma action, and my karma action will also become your bhakti, devotion. The Supreme Soul has said a very revolutionary thing in this verse. Each and every moment in one's life can become bhakti, devotion through this. Then one's whole life will become bhakti, devotion. The bliss that one gets from this is a unique bliss. This is because one can feel God's touch during each and every moment. I will also place a lot of emphasis on another word here. Until now I've spoken about abhyarj, duty, but in the word swakarmana, one's own duty, one should put a little emphasis on the prefix swa, one's own, and then the meaning of this whole verse through this one's own karma, actions. We can see the circumstances that God has created in 2 ways. If a person depends on fate or places complete faith, shraddha, in God, then they can say that whatever circumstances that have been created were created by God, and I worship the Supreme Soul with the actions that I performed in those circumstances. This can be one meaning of swakarmana, one's own duty. The second meaning is when one does not accept God's power so much and thinks that whatever circumstances have been created have come because of my own karma, and therefore whatever karma I have performed in the past, I have performed in my previous lives and that I have been performing throughout my lives. When the consequences of these karmas create these circumstances for me, then I will face them. I will accept those circumstances. I am not ready to accept the circumstances as only God's grace, but I'll accept that they have come as a consequence of my karma, and whatever karma I will perform in these circumstances with me for you, God. Therefore, swakarmana, one's own duty, can be in both these ways. But the root thing is acceptance. It depends on the perspective with which we look at life. The first is acceptance and the second is non-acceptance. Non-acceptance is thinking that why did this happen? Why did this happen? When such thoughts keep coming to one's mind, then this is non-acceptance. This leads to a person being constantly unsatisfied. A person with a perspective of acceptance is always content. This is really worth understanding, and thinkers have said something nice about this. If there is non-acceptance towards life, then first of all, life will become a conflict. You'll be in constant conflict with life. There will be conflict during each and every moment. But the moment which you accept, then from that moment there will be rest. If there's a conflict, then it's fine, but who are we conflicting with? We are conflicting with this world. As a consequence, we get tired and we get broken. When you begin conflict, then it feels good. But as a consequence, you become tired and you become broken. On the other hand, if you accept, then you will become one with and join with the universe and with totality. Now you will have the view that God, whatever you wish, will happen. Third, there is differentiation in non-acceptance. There are divisions and separation. When there is non-acceptance, then one has the attitude that why have they been created different? This is the disagreement. On the other hand, there is oneness in acceptance. There are disturbances in non-acceptance whereas there is peace in acceptance. There is obstruction in non-acceptance. If you're driving a car on a road with a lot of speed breakers, then there's a difference with when you're driving a car on a simple and straightforward route. The road of non-acceptance is like the road with a lot of speed breakers. There are obstructions at every point. The direction of life changes, the gears change, the movement changes, and everything changes. But when one accepts that the car of life begins running, then there are no complaints left. There are tensions in non-acceptance. This is because one is making efforts, but one keeps thinking that will it happen or not, will it happen or not, will it happen or not, when favourable circumstances arise or not. There are tensions there. On the other hand, there is peace in acceptance. There is egotism in non-acceptance. When one says that I do not agree, then the I comes into it. The ego comes when one begins to create a difference. This is the ego. In acceptance, the ego falls away. Non-acceptance is meaningless in the end, whereas acceptance is meaningful in the end. And I will say it lastly that through non-acceptance, the circumstances do not change forever, but if you accept the circumstances, then you attain peace. It is possible with non-acceptance that if you're powerful, then it will stop during that time, but it will not change forever. If you accept it, then you will benefit. Guruji once stayed with a family and the child had an addiction of smoking. Many people were going there to explain to him that it's wrong and he should leave it. He also had other addictions, but Guruji said to him, Guruji did not want to write about them here. The father told him that if you keep doing this, then I'll not give you a role in the business. Think about what you want to do. It so happened that Guruji was staying with the family for a week and he spoke with him. The people in the family told Guruji so much that he's like this, he is useless. Guruji said, at least let me meet him. After hearing from everyone that you're useless, you're useless, you're useless, the child began to believe himself that I'm useless, I'm no good. On one side, you cannot become free from his bondages and addictions, and on the other side, this would happen every day when he came inside the house. Guruji told him that do you not feel that you should improve your life? He told Guruji that I have a lot of wishes to do so, but how can I improve it? I have so many addictions. It is difficult for me to leave them. Guruji told him one thing, that you should forget those habits. When you have to leave them, then you'll leave them. Guruji told him to come with him. He told him that he had addictions, and he said that we would see to them later. He became free from all his addictions. Then one time, when he was speaking to Guruji, Guruji asked him what he liked, and he replied that I only liked one thing, that you accepted me. The circumstances were such that the people around him were leaving him because of all the faults he had. He said that you've given me hope. Despite all of this, my development can still take place. Guruji told him, this is not mine. God says in the Gita that apichet sudacharo bhajate mam anabhyak sadur eva mantavya samyak vavisto hisa. Even if the man of the most foul conduct worships me with undistracted devotion, he must be reckoned as righteous, for he has rightly resolved. Shri Krishna of the Gita is ready to accept you. I am just a medium in the middle. One should have this acceptance. You should sit down quietly and think that all the complaints that we have in life reside in non-acceptance. There are two types of non-acceptance. Firstly, we do not accept people, and that is why turbulence is born. There are many things like this. People say that, why is my son like this? Why is my relative like this? Why is my husband like this? Why is my wife like this? This is non-acceptance, and that is why we get turbulence in our minds. The second type of non-acceptance is that we know that the other person in front of us is not accepting us. We do not accept others, and others do not accept us. As a consequence, turbulence arises in our mind. When the other person does not accept us, then we know that he is not accepting me, and this creates problems. We are clever and intelligent, and if I were to go further, then I would say that the very difficulty is that we are clever. If we were not clever, then we would get a lot of peace. We do not accept anybody, and others do not accept us. It is because of non-acceptance that conflicts, sorrows, and difficulties are created in our lives. We should learn to accept. The more that we will accept, then the more peace we will get. That is why the word swakarmana, one's own duty, is used. Only if you accept the circumstances will the circumstances get better, and only then will the building of karma actions be created. You should accept the place, the circumstances, and the situation, and build karma's actions from there. If you do not accept the place, the situation, and circumstances, then how will you be able to build karma? They will not be created from the air. Where will the building of efforts and hard work be built? The seed of our karma are always built on how we interpret the reality of our circumstances. If we're not able to accept the reality of the circumstances, then where will we be able to plant the seed of our karma? And if we cannot plant the seed, then how will it grow? You should learn to accept. And we make a lot of efforts. It's not as if we do not make efforts, but we make efforts without accepting the reality of the place, the situation, and the circumstances, and that is why the seed of the karma actions remains floating in the air. They do not become steady, and that is why the fruits do not come, and that is why we do not get the consequences of them. Acceptance, efforts, and surrender are three things that God has said in this verse. Acceptance, efforts, and surrender, that is what worship is. Even in the everyday meaning of worship, there is acceptance. This is because we accept that this is God. If you do not accept this, then we will not be able to do worship. No, we won't be able to do so. By saying that this is God, we have accepted it. Then we make efforts. And at the end we say, Shri Krishna Paramastu, I surrender this to Shri Krishna. We have given it as an offering to Shri Krishna. When the worship of these three steps takes place in life, then one certainly attains the Supreme Soul, and these are the words of the Supreme Soul himself. Let's go to the